This is the first of a series of tutorials on changing pitch and stretching and shrinking time. In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at pitch. We're going to visually examine pitch. And if you want to follow along, go get these three files here. Singer WAV is inside the Working Files Demo Files folder right there. The other two files are over here in Working Files Music. Just too hard to find. There's the instrumental mix, and scroll down a bit, and there is the singer pitch correction. How do you see pitch? You see pitch inside the spectral pitch display view, this view right here. You can get here by clicking on this purple button here, or go to View, Show Spectral Pitch Display. Obviously, it's much easier just to click on the button, so that's your best bet right there. And how is this different from the spectral frequency display? Let me flip over there. There's the spectral frequency display, and it looks very similar, except this one doesn't have a grid, and this one doesn't have that little blue line on it. Well, this one can have a grid if you want it. We just opt out for the grid here in the preferences. And the blue line, that is really the special feature of the spectral pitch display. So we'll go back there. You'll notice that suddenly we're zoomed in on the spectral pitch display, whereas before we weren't. It automatically defaults to this view. I'm going to go back to the full view by right-clicking here in this vertical ruler and selecting Zoom Reset. So we're back to the view we saw moments ago. So what does this blue, or maybe you might want to call it a purple line, what does this line represent? It represents what Audition calculates is the predominant pitch that it hears inside this audio file. Now there's obviously lots of other pitches going on. These are all overtones from this woman's voice. But this is the predominant pitch. If you sort of go across here, you can kind of basically eyeball what it might be. We have a gap there, but we can zoom on that in a moment and try to figure out exactly what the note is. I know this is going to be an E above middle C, then D, then middle C, dropping down to an A, and then back up to the C. So let's just hear that for a second.
Just too hard to find.
So that's a great way to see pitch. Now if I switch over to the instrumental mix, it's not going to be so clear. It's just these sort of vertical things. Audition has a heck of a time trying to single out a pitch when you've got lots of different voices or lots of different instruments. So it really becomes sort of futile to rely on these blue little lines here to say what's pitch, in particular because they're vertical instead of horizontal. How can a vertical thing tell you what the pitch is, which should be horizontal, of course? So when you switch back and forth between multiple instruments and voices or to a single voice, you're going to find that the little blue line is helpful with a single voice and basically not all that helpful with multiple voices until you use this view for its main purpose, and that is to change pitch. And then you can use the blue lines to show you what the original pitch was, and then you can see how it's changed by looking at the effect that you apply. So let's just go back to this singer again. We'll take a closer look at it. Notice how we've zoomed in now, but I'm going to accept that zoom in now because it gives me a chance to really see the pitches here on the right-hand side. There's C4. C4 is middle C. There it is. And then you can see there's the D. If you go across watching the grid, there's the D. And here's the E. She kind of scoops up to the E, which is not unusual for a vocalist singing a solo in kind of a rocky kind of a song. That's all right. So there's the E, the D, and the C, dropping down to the, it says G sharp here, but I think it's more accurately an A, so I kind of maybe missed that. And this little dip here, again, that's this anomaly that the Audition sometimes hears funny pitches, so it's not totally accurate. Then here's the finishing C, and it has a little bit of a wiggle to it because she has a vibrato there. So that's how the pitch looks here. You can change this ruler. If you right-click here, there are a couple of features that you can do. You can zoom reset, which I showed you before. It doesn't have to be notes. If you go to Hertz, it's very much like what you saw in the spectral frequency display. So there's the Hertz display. And I talked about how 440 is up here, the A440, that's A above middle C. And middle C is about 260 or so, so there it is right there, middle C. And then we drop down into the bass zone here. So that's, you can go from Hertz back to notes, but notes is a more comfortable way because you're dealing with pitch here and you're typically going to change pitch here. Actually, the same is true for the spectral frequency display. If you go back there, you can right-click on this. It doesn't have to be Hertz. It too can be notes. So you can have it either way. We'll switch back to Hertz because that's the more likely use of the spectral frequency display. We'll go back to the spectral pitch display. Now, just as we saw that the pitch was, correct here, which you expect it to be, let's say if the pitch is wrong. I created this incorrectly pitched file using the same music. Listen to it.
Just too hard to find.
Obviously, that's not really how she sounds, but I messed around with that to use this as an example in an upcoming tutorial, and you can see how the pitch is way off there. It starts down here at the C sharp level, it goes up to a E where it belongs, then it starts dipping way, way down. Instead of just holding right there at the D and at the C level, it drops below C. And it goes up above C and then back down again below it. So you can see when something isn't right, and then what you do is you use the manual pitch correction to fix that. Let me just show you what manual pitch correction looks like so you get a sense of why this is such a good tool, the spectral pitch display. If you go up to Effects, Time and Pitch, Manual Pitch Correction, it adds this effect and puts this overlay on it. And then when you open this up here, you see that it has this envelope, they call it, where if you take this and raise this, you can see the change in the pitch here. And you can do it on a part-by-part basis. So from here to there, for example, I can lift up just that part of the pitch to try to straighten things out instead of having them drop gradually like that. From here to here, for example, I can bring it down. So this is the helpful tool that works inside the spectral pitch display. And this tool is an old tool. It was in Audition 3. Remember, we're working on the equivalent of Audition 5 now in the CS6 package, in the CS6 suite. But this was around for Audition 3. It was dropped for 4, now it's back for 5. But back then it was this little window, and now it's this very large display. It's much more helpful now in the CS6 version of Audition. So this is the spectral pitch view, and the real value of this is that you can use the manual pitch correction effect inside here, and it's a great way to do it. You can really work very effectively with that tool inside the spectral pitch display, and we'll cover that in a later tutorial.